how are you today? This is Amy Hamilton, the project manager, author of The Project Manager Life is a Project. Today, what I want to talk to you about is scope creep versus establishing your scope initially. We as project managers need to ensure that we establish the scope right away in our projects. And when I'm talking about this, I do want to add the fact that this is going to be talking about traditional project management, what we call waterfall, versus agile project management. So agile, you have a lot more flexibility in your scope because you're doing sprints. We've talked about waterfall versus agile in the past, and I'm more than happy to talk more about agile in the future. But what I want to focus on today is traditional scope management that you use in waterfall. I would like to thank Saeed and the team for having me out here. I absolutely love presenting on this channel. I will be looking for your comments and your questions as we go through this, as we normally do in our broadcast, and this will be saved and put up on YouTube as well. So let's talk a little bit about what is scope, the triple constraint. Every project manager should know this. This should be the one thing that you are thinking about every single day of your life. And the first thing is your cost. How much budget do you have? Were you told immediately, hey, this is your budget, this is all you have? Where did you get your budget metrics from? Did you do an analogous budget? Is this something similar to what you've done before? Is this brand new? Is this an exploratory project? So you really need to understand what is the cost, what is the budget, and what are you allowed to spend on it. The second thing is going to be the schedule. That schedule is so important, and so often as project managers, this is where we let time slip away, and it's so critical when you're building your WBS and you're looking at your resources, that you're looking at shared resources across the board. So if you're doing an isolated project and you're in a large organization, is there programmatics to it? Is there a shared resource that you need to make sure is available for other projects? And are they going to be available for your project when they need them? So you really want to be looking at your schedule and stay on schedule. And the third thing, and this is really what I want to focus on today, is going to be when it comes to the quality of the project. And when you're looking at the quality of the project, this I think is something that a lot of times now we're not doing as well as the project management community. And this is defining what exactly is it you're creating. I'm in IT, so traditionally what I'm doing is a lot of hardware installations. And, you know, do we know, is this going to take fiber? Is this going to take a telecommunication satellite? Is this going to be taking a lot of hardware, getting the hardware on site? What kind of HVAC requirements and power requirements? And knowing really exactly what it is we're putting in. But I've been told from a lot of other managers in the project management community that this is something that's even spreading into construction management and other areas. I was talking to someone and they were talking about a house. So simple project, build a house and you're done, right? But when you look at the cost and you look at the schedule, how much more is it when you start adding all those optional features? When you say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in granite countertops. I'm going to put in a sunken bathtub. I'm going to get the jacuzzi jets. I'm going to build on a deck to the back of the house. As you start doing this, that cost continues to go up. But is that really a matter of scope creep, or is that bad scoping in the beginning of your project? And I think that that's really the problem is people keep saying it's scope creep, it's scope creep. No, you never define the scope in the first place. You never define that quality. And this is something that we, as project managers, absolutely have to do. And this has to be from the inception, from your kickoff meeting, all the way to the conclusion. You need to have clearly defined the cost, the schedule, but most importantly, the exact requirements. And you need to make sure that you have, this is what we're doing. Absolutely any changes is going to require a modification, and it's going to require that change management process. So in the future, we're going to be talking about change management and how you can do change management so that you can ensure that if there's any changes to that scope, it's been incorporated into the entire plan. I'm seeing some questions coming up about PMP versus Print2. I'll add that as a future topic, and we'll make sure that we get that in there. So when you're talking in traditional project management in scope, what I want you to think about is, what exactly does this entail? So I mentioned IT hardware, I've mentioned construction. One place where this doesn't really apply the most, and that's going to be software development. And in most software development in today's society, you're using Agile. And like I said, we'll talk about Agile another time. But when you're looking at your scope, what I want you to do is really spend that extra time to create a good project charter and a good initial scope document. And then when you have that scope document, anything at all has to be put into the change management document with the change management process. Because what happens is when you go in and you're like, oh, well, this is what we're doing, and it's going to be kind of like this, that's not good enough, and that's not cutting it. And this is why projects are going over budget. This is why projects are not making the schedule. Because what's going on is people are out there and they're saying, oh, this is good enough. We'll kind of figure it out as we go along. No, you don't have scope creep. You don't have a scope. And what I want you to do is think about your last project. Did you have your scope well defined? Did you make sure that you clearly understood every single requirement? So if it's a hardware installation, for me, I'm looking at making sure, do I understand, is this going to be 2 racks? Is it going to be 3 racks? Is this going to be an HVAC installation? Has all the power requirements been included? If there's software that needs to be automatically uploaded, was there software licenses included into it already? And make sure I have a really well-defined package. Once I have that well-defined package, I can say, okay, here's the cost, here's the schedule, here's how long it's going to take all these things to come into play. When you're just like, oh, that's close enough, that's not scope creep. That's just bad scoping in the very beginning. And I know this is a little bit negative compared to most of the time when I talk to project management about you, but I just think it's such an important topic that everybody understands the importance, that if you don't get that scope right in the very beginning, it's only going to get worse. It's not like you suddenly had this epiphany moment and go, oh, this is what we're doing, and I magically had already planned the budget and exactly how long it would take. That never happens, and if you ever do have that project, let me know, because I'd be really, really curious as to how you magically made that happen. And what we have to do as project managers is hold ourselves to those basic principles. And you have to make sure that you understand the project, exactly what you're going to be doing, and go forward and doing it. We could talk more about Agile later on, because there's a lot more flexibility when you're looking at software. And the other thing I'm getting from a lot of people is people want to look at the new PMP guide. That's something that I'm working on with someone else, and what I'll be doing is in a couple weeks putting out to you what are the differences between the last PMP guide and the new PMBOK, and what do we need to be looking at as project managers, both in our profession and also for those of you who are out there getting ready to take your PMP examination. I really appreciate the time. I will be looking for any questions before I wrap up, but what I want to leave you with is cost, schedule, and scope. It is absolutely the most important things that you need to do. Once again, this is Amy Hamilton, author of The Project Manager, Life is a Project. And also you can check me out on my TEDx talk where I discuss the secret to life from a PMP. I look forward to talking to everybody next week. Ciao.